Okay, we're going to talk about setting up your Windows Server on the VirtualBox Manager. So, you got your VirtualBox Manager. What you want to do, just like before, we've gone through this before. We can either go through a machine and say new, or we can go to the new icon over on the right. Whichever method works for you, works for you. So, create a new machine. There's a couple different locations here. I goofed up there. So, create a new machine and give it a name, right? You also want to pay particular attention to the location of that file. Make sure you know where they're at. It's going to default to users. You want to put it somewhere where you have a little more control and access to. The server type or the type of machine is going to be a Windows 2019 64-bit, and then boom, server name. So I think I called mine something like Server 2019 Demo, right? You can call it whatever you like. Right? And then next it, okay? Memory, it's going to depend on your particular physical box. Most of yours should have 8 gigs, so do half. The minimum recommended is 2 gigs or 2048 megabytes. But I'd say for now do 4 gigs, 4096. You want to do a virtual disk image for your hard drive, and you want it to be a VDI, a virtual disk image. So make sure you select those two things, and you want to dynamically assign the space. Let that file, because it's a file, not a disk, get as big as you want. It recommends a minimum of 50 gigs, but from experience's sake, and again, given the physical restraints of your hardware, be accommodating, I'd say anywhere from 60 to 70 gig. On mine, I chose 70 because I have the space to use. Now, bear in mind, this is going to be in this case, on this machine, on my D drive. Right? And there it is. There's the setup for the space, but we don't create the actual server. What we need to do is go in and fiddle with it a little bit for our purposes. First thing I want you to look at is the network, right? So I want you to enable the network. I want it to be in bridged mode, and then you need to choose your physical card, right? Now, in this case, I have two, a wireless and a wire card, and where it says advanced, you want to look at it and say allow all. So you want all machines to be able to connect to it. And where it says cable disconnected, even though I didn't show you here, I want you to uncheck that box. We have two choices, either uncheck it or physically unplug the cable. That's going to be important when we get this server up and running. Why is it going to be important? Because we're going to be using this server as a DHCP server. So you're going to start doling out addresses. If that cable's plugged in, you're going to get addresses from this box on your physical box. So we want to make sure that's unplugged. Next, we want to take a quick tour through general and system settings, just make sure those settings took. And the most important, storage. So we need a bootable disk here. We don't have one yet. All we have is a blank hard drive. So on our optical disk, which it created for us, we want to insert or point it towards an ISO file. So you want to have ready that Windows 2019 ISO file wherever you found it or stored it, right? Locate or navigate to that section. In this case, I have it stored in a very particular folder for, ISOs, and inside there is Windows 2019. So I'm going to click on that, and that's akin to loading it into the optical drive. So now my disk is ready. It's bootable, okay? The virtual machine, when it first launches, is going to know it doesn't have a bootable hard drive. It's going to go right to that CD. So double click on the virtual, and boom, it boots right to that optical drive. So it's going to start loading the files and preparing the machine for install. Right? So right now it's not loading the operating system, it's loading the installer. So you've been down this road before. Right? We're going to come up to that normal screen. What language do you want it to be in? Yes, there's a difference between US English and English, and then you'll end up on the Install Now button. So that gets your virtual machine up to the point where it's ready to actually install. Any questions? You know where I'm at.